What's going on? My name's Jay, and today I'm going to show you some Davinci Resolve Fusion basics and introduce you to the world of node-based compositing. Let's take a look. Alright, so you've been working in Davinci Resolve for a little while. You've gotten pretty good at putting a timeline together and maybe even color grading, and you know how to use Fairlight to make your videos sound good, but now you want to take things up just a little bit. You want to add that extra bit of oomph to your video. Maybe you want to do some text tracking or some animated titles or some special effects. But that requires going into the Fusion page, and that can be a little bit scary to people who aren't used to Davinci Resolve. And don't worry, I feel your pain. I was the same way. It took me forever to actually dive into Fusion and really learn about it. But once I did, it actually became really easy, and I actually like it more than After Effects. So today, we're gonna dive into the Fusion page. It's not gonna be a comprehensive, like, here's everything that you can do with it. I'm just gonna show you kind of how it works so you can begin experimenting and creating your own effects and your own titles or transitions or whatever you want. So with that being said, let's jump into Davinci Resolve and take a look at the Fusion page. All right, so here we are in the Fusion page in Davinci Resolve, and we're gonna take a quick little tour. I'm gonna just show you kind of the basic things that you need to be aware of in order to get started making some effects. So over here in the top right of the page, we have our media pool. This is all the clips that are in our project. Next to that, we have our effects library, which has all the tools and open effects and templates and all kinds of stuff that you can play around with. Next to that is the clips button. You can just toggle your clips on and off. So when I turn that on, all the clips that I've brought into Fusion are there. Click that and you can hide that. And then over here, you can toggle your nodes on and off if you want to get a better view. Over here to the right are a couple other things to be aware of. Spline and keyframes are a little bit more advanced. I do use keyframes when I'm doing a write-on text effect, but you don't really need to worry about that right now. If you do want to learn more about that, that tutorial is actually linked below. Next to spline and keyframes is your metadata if you want to check out the data of the clips that you're working with. And then next to that is your inspector. Now the inspector is really important. This is where we do all the tweaking to our effects and make everything look the way we want it to look. Let's go ahead and close that down and take a look at our monitors. Now in the edit page, you have your playback monitor, you have your source monitor, and those two are not interchangeable. Your source monitor will always contain your source clips, and your playback monitor will always contain your timeline playback. The Fusion page is a little bit different. Instead of having source and playback, we can actually choose what goes in what monitor. So what I like to do typically is have either my source clip or whatever effect I happen to be tweaking in monitor 1, and then my rendered image in monitor 2. Let's go ahead and resize this a little bit so we can see what we're working with. Now below our monitors, we've got a bunch of commonly used effects, things like background and fast noise and text, and paint and color corrector and color curves and brightness and contrast, blur, merge. Below all of those effects is the bread and butter of the Fusion page, which are the nodes. Now this is where people tend to get a little bit confused. They tend to get a little bit intimidated, and I understand that. I was there, but it's actually a lot easier if you think of it as a pipeline. So we have media in. These are the clips that we've brought into Fusion. These are essentially our source clips. And then to the right is media out, and this is our rendered clip. And everything that we're gonna do in Fusion, all of the effects that we're gonna do are gonna happen in between media in and media out. So if you think of this as kind of a workflow map, you think of this line as a pipeline that connects everything, you'll be all right. So for example, let's say I wanted to put a blur effect and I wanted to blur this image out. So what I could do is I could either click on the blur tool and we would get a blur node, just delete that, or I could drag it in from there, delete that, or we can go up to our tools, we can choose blur, we can grab the blur effect, we can drag it into our timeline, or we can go ahead and hit Shift Space and that will open up our select tool menu. We could type in blur and we can choose blur and hit add, and that will show up. Now, right now, there's nothing happening here because the blur node is not connected to media in and media out. So what we're gonna do is click on this line to delete it, we're going to draw a line from media in to blur. We're going to draw a line from blur to media out. And still there's nothing going on. There's still a couple things that we need to do, like go into our inspector and actually tweak the blur. So we can choose the type of blur, we can choose the color that we blur, we can choose the blur size. Let's go ahead and bring that up. Now we've got a nice blurry image for whatever reason, and we're good to go. Now let's say I wanted to use this frame as kind of a title. So what I can do is just click in the open area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a text node into the timeline. And you can see that nothing's happening here. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a line from media into text. Let's go ahead and put that text in the left monitor so we can see what we're doing. We're going to make our title Vlog 001. Go ahead and choose a font. Go ahead and do my handy dandy Dead Kansas font. Resize that a little bit. We can play around with the layout here. We could center it. We can rotate it on an axis. So let's say I wanted to make it so it was lying flat or maybe leaning towards us. I could do that. I could rotate it a little bit. I can play around with the colors. I could basically do whatever I want to this text, but let's just keep it there for now. Now, in order to make it so the text and the blur both end up in media out, what we need to do is add a merge node. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete the line between blur and media out. I'll do that just by clicking on it. You can come up here, grab a merge node, drag that into our timeline. And you'll notice in our merge clip, we have 3 different arrows. And if you just hover over them, you can tell what they are. So here, this green arrow is the foreground. This orange arrow is the background. And then this blue arrow is the effect mask. So what we want to do is we want to make the blur our background. We want to make the text our foreground. And then we're just going to draw a line from merge to media out. And now we're good to go. Now, like I said, in the Fusion page, you can do things like text tracking or even do a write-on text effect. If you want to learn more about how to do that, check out this video right here. And if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about video editing, camera gear, and how to make better videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next video. Go watch it now.